Good morning, everyone. This is Morgan with Mid-Atlantic, and we also have Lindsay from our office as well as Vanessa from Appulate. Thank you for taking the time to participate in our webinar. Mid-Atlantic has been working aggressively with Appulate to come up with a submission portal to benefit both us, the broker, your agency, and even your insured. I'm excited to share some of its amazing features, so let's get started. So you may be wondering how this portal can benefit your agency or what's in it for you. I can sum it up in one word: speed. This portal will increase your speed with submission process and increase your turnaround time with delivering quotes to your insured. Bottom line, it's about helping our clients as quickly and efficiently as possible. As you can see on the slide, we have identified several benefits to our portal. But one of the comments I constantly hear from our agents that are currently using Appulate is how easy it is to add other lines of business in Appulate. And yes, you will receive your quotes back much faster. We will talk more about that in just a moment. I mentioned Lindsay from our office has also joined us today. She is a new business underwriter that focused on our non-comp lines. She would like to take a moment to talk about our appetite and to share her experience with Appulate. Lindsay?
Thanks, Morgan. Hey, guys, it's Lindsay. Thanks, everyone who joined us today. We really appreciate your participation. You may have known that we write work comp on Appulate. We've done that for a couple of years now. But we're actually the first broker that's offering 6 other lines of business in the portal. With having multiple lines of business in the system, it's much easier for our agents and underwriters to manage their submissions. Since I'm one of the new business underwriters focusing on non-comp lines, I've seen a huge difference when my agents are able to submit their new submissions through the Appulate. I'm able to submit to our markets much faster due to the fact that I'm not rekeying the information for each carrier. So that allows me to get your quote back faster. So the 6 lines of business that we have applicable to Appulate right now are auto, BOP, GL, inland marine, package, umbrella, and workers' comp. And next, I'm going to talk about appetite just real quickly. We get a lot of questions on, what we're actually writing and what we're hitting on. So I would say, number 1 is contractors. We write a ton of contractors, trade mostly, masonry, painting, plumbing, carpentry, etc. We also do general contractors, so your custom home builders, your residential remodelers, those are the most popular ones. We do write a lot of restaurants. We can write all lines for that. If you have liquor sales up to 35%, that's the most hits that we get. Family style, fast food, fast casual. We also write apartments, condos, lesser's risk, service-driven risks like nail salons, hair salons, and day spas. We write garage repair. And if you have a new venture, they're still eligible as long as they have experience. So I am going to go ahead and pass this back over to Morgan.
Thanks for that information, Lindsay. So any new submissions you have as of today, please start submitting through Appulate. Any accounts that are bound in the Appulate portal will offer you a chance to win up to $100 on a gift card. I'll give you details in just a moment. If you have any questions or suggestions on how the portal can benefit you or perhaps something that needs to be made more user-friendly, please contact me. Appulate, as well as myself, would love to hear any feedback you may have. In the next 2 weeks, please look out for a survey we will send to you for any additional suggestions. Your name will also be entered in a drawing for another chance to win another gift card. As I was just saying a moment ago, if you bind any accounts through Appulate, you will receive an email from me which will allow us to set up a time and spin our live wheel we have here in the office. Based on the premium of the account bound, you are eligible to win any of the amounts listed by tier, as you can see here on the slide. You can either FaceTime in, use your computer camera, or simply just speak with us over the phone if you prefer. Our office would like to cheer you and your agency on to thank you for working with us. Now I'd like to take this time to introduce Vanessa with Appulate. She will walk you through the process on how to submit a submission through the portal. Vanessa?
Thank you, Morgan. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar today. We're very excited to be partnered with Mid-Atlantic and show you how easy it is to use Appulate to submit to Mid-Atlantic. But before I get into a live demonstration, I wanted to just quickly give you some information on Appulate for those of you that are new to the Appulate platform. Appulate is a technology company with a growing network of over 30,000 agencies nationwide and hundreds of markets, making Appulate the place where agents, MGAs, and carriers do business digitally. We recently broke an Appulate record, receiving more than 16,000 submissions through Appulate in 1 month. And we continue to stay committed to you, the agent, by empowering you to expand your markets, automate your workflow, and save you time and money. So I want to talk a little bit more on each of these points. So we add new markets and lines of business like our wonderful partner Mid-Atlantic here often, and you'll actually see in our demonstration how we can automate your workflow. But let's talk briefly a bit more about saving time. So on a survey that we conducted on retail agents, we found that agents are averaging about 40 submissions per month, and agents reported an average savings using Appulate of about 37 minutes per submission. This translates to an average of close to 1,500 minutes or over 24 hours saved per month with Appulate. And of course, if we can save time, we can save dollars. So those numbers, the average savings per agent is around $593 per agent per month, or over $7,000 per year if you're using Appulate. So with that said, let's get right into our live demonstration. I'm going to do that by pulling open a completed ACORD form that I have put together here for a package. And this is where I'm going to get started. So if you have completed ACORD forms in an ACORD PDF, as I have it here on my screen, or in your agency management system, that's where you'll start, because we have an uplink tool which will allow you to bridge this data over so that you don't have to spend any time rekeying. And our uplink tool works with any agency management system, so you don't have to worry about which one you're using. All right, so to get started with an already filled out ACORD form, you would just Appulate it. In other words, you'll print it to the Appulate uplink printer option. Now, this installs on your desktop in less than a minute, and I'll be sure to go over this at the end if you don't yet have it installed. I'm going to hit print. It's going to ask me to confirm my Appulate credentials, and then it will create the insured in Appulate and bridge over this information. While we wait just a second for this to load, I also want to mention that for those of you that do not have access to ACORD forms, maybe you don't have a management system, maybe that's just not a part of your process, don't worry, Appulate is still for you. You can actually get started directly in Appulate. You don't have to start from an ACORD form. I'll show you that process a bit later on. All right, so now we are in Appulate. We have our insured. We have the line of business. So this one created a package, a commercial package. It bridges over the effective date from the ACORD form. If you needed to make edits to that, you can simply click on it and choose the right date from the calendar. And it brought you to our Q&A section where all of the information from the ACORD form has been bridged over and plugged into the appropriate field here in Appulate. The first step, once you've bridged over your ACORD form, is to add your market. So you've bridged over the information and created the insured and created the line of business, but now you need to tell the system that it is Mid-Atlantic that you would like to submit to. So you'll choose Mid-Atlantic from this drop-down menu, which, by the way, this is a part of the setup process as well, which I'll go over at the end. Your list of markets here is dependent on how you've set up your account. It's dependent on the list of selected markets up here. So if you're missing Mid-Atlantic or any of your markets from this list, I will be sure to go over that during the end, during setup. All right, so we have Mid-Atlantic listed and selected, and to the right, we have a letter indication that will help guide us through the submission process. So it will tell you any questions that are missing and required. These are live links, so you can click on them. It will take you directly to where you need to answer that question in the SMART questionnaire. You'll see that in the SMART questionnaire, there are 5 main sections, and it will list a red number next to any of the sections that are missing questions that are required. So you'll have to answer all of the questions with the red asterisk, all of the questions that are missing and required, before you're able to click on the Submit button. So this will ensure that Mid-Atlantic has all of the information that they need so that they can quote this for you as quickly as possible. So I'm actually going to jump through this section by section, starting with subject. And there's no missing questions here, but there are a few questions that the Mid-Atlantic team wanted to talk you through, maybe some frequently asked questions in this section. So I'm going to start off with a subject of insurance. I'm going to click this drop-down menu here because this information has been plugged into a table. So when I click the drop-down menu, it actually expands this so that we can review more information. So Lindsay, did you want to say a few words, give a bit of advice here in the subjects of insurance section?
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa. I just wanted to point out the subject of insurance. It's not going to have a drop box. So it's going to be where you put property. So it'd be like building would be one of the subjects. If you need building coverage, you put the amount, and then you can add another subject. So another subject could be BPP, business personal property, contents, whatever you want to put in there is fine. Another example could be business income. Those are things that we see often. So sometimes we see that, people aren't really sure what to put for subject of insurance. So we just wanted to point that out. So usually, again, the top things would be building, contents, and business income.
Very good. Thank you, Lindsay. So I'm going to keep moving forward here. We have another section that we wanted to share some more information on. By the way, as you have questions, please type them in the GoToMeeting side panel in the questions section as you have them. So we don't want you to forget your questions. Type them in and we will get to them at the end. We'll have a Q&A session. So I'm still in the subject section. I scroll down to schedule of hazards. I have something plugged in here already for a GL class code, but let's say you didn't have this. We want to point out that Appulate has a great tool here for you to actually search by description. So let's say you didn't know that that was the code there. You could actually just type in carpenters or whatever it was that you were looking for. And then once you find the proper description and the code, you can actually just click on it and it will populate the fields for you. Okay, so great feature. We get a lot of good response on that. Feel free to try it out. And if you have any questions or feedback, let us know. We'll keep moving through these sections here in order. But again, if you wanted to jump directly to this section, you always could by using the live links or just going directly to it. So this first of the missing and required questions here asked me for a detailed description of operation. So I'm going to plug in my detailed description here, and Lindsay is going to say a few words about what the Mid-Atlantic team is actually looking for here. Lindsay?
Thanks. Yeah, this is really probably the most important field. It's your own words of what they're doing. So we really want as much detail as you can. For example, if they're a painter, we don't want to just see a painting contractor. We are going to need to know if they're doing commercial or residential, if they're doing interior or exterior, if they're doing both, the percentage of each. So that'll help eliminate a lot of back and forth questions that we may have. So just as much, details that you can put in there. If it's a new venture restaurant, you can say, this is a new venture, but they've had 20 years of experience and 5 years of that was managing a restaurant, for example. So anything you want to say to really help us understand what it is, that's where you want to put it.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Lindsay, for that additional information. So I plugged in, to the best of my knowledge, a detailed description of operations here, so I can go ahead and move forward. This next question here, I could go ahead and answer, and you can see that your answers here obviously correspond with all of the triggers here in real time. So it removes the number of missing and required questions here that was showing up in red before. If you hover over the letter indication, it no longer lists any missing and required questions. In fact, it shows up in green. And most importantly, the submit button also shows up in green. So that means that you can go ahead and move forward with your submission. So at this point, I'll go ahead and click on the submit button. And Morgan, did you want to say a few words around turnaround time?
Yes. When using Appulate, you can expect a much faster turnaround time compared to when you email your submission in. Again, this is just due to the fact of our requirements to submit off to our carriers are all listed in the portal. And since we do have 30 markets and growing, we are able to get these submissions in much faster. Also, all submissions we receive submitted through Appulate are made priority, so these submissions that come through Appulate do go to the top of the new business team's list. With the majority of the quotes, depending on risk and line of business, you can expect a quote within 24, 48 hours. For more complex risks, please note it may take just a bit longer as more underwriting may be needed. Vanessa?
Very good. Thank you, Morgan. All right, so definitely if you want your quote back faster, this is the way to do it. It does update your status, by the way. When you click the submit button, it will say submitted. If you haven't submitted yet, so if you're a little confused, it will say not yet submitted. So your status and your letter indication here in Appulate are your best friend. All right, so we've gone ahead and submitted package, and actually Morgan is going to work on turning around a quote for us so that we can show you how that comes through in Appulate. But in the meanwhile, what I wanted to do is show you how you can add on now another line of business. So let's say you submitted a package, but you still need to submit a commercial auto submission here. So the way to do that would be, there's a few ways, but I'm going to show you here how you can simply click this drop-down menu and click on Create New, and it's going to take you through the process for this particular insured to add the business auto here. So we'll choose business auto from the drop-down menu, or any of those other lines of business that Lindsay and Morgan pointed out to you earlier. So we'll choose business auto. It automatically plugs in an effective and an expiration date, which you can make edits to. We'll click the continue button. And on this next page, it's the exact same process as I showed you earlier. So all of the information that was relevant from the package was bridged over so that you don't have to spend any time rekeying it. Now you have to make sure that the system knows that you're trying to work with Mid-Atlantic, so you'll choose them from the list of selected markets here. And again, you'll go through the exact same process. It works the same for all lines of business. There's just different questions, of course, for each line of business. So you'll go through this section by section to answer all of the required questions for the business auto. And once you fulfill the requirements, the letter indication will turn to green, a green A, and you will get a green submit button that you can click on. I do also want to point out that if you have a business auto accord form completed, you can always just start there. So if you bridged over package and now you wanted to bridge over business auto, just go back to wherever it is that you have your accord form and uplink it, and it's smart enough to know that you're not trying to create a duplicate, you're trying to add another line of business here, and all your lines of business for this particular insured will show up in the drop-down menu. There's also a way to start directly from Appulate, as I mentioned to you earlier. So in a little bit, I'll show you how that process works for, again, those of you that do not have access to accord forms. All right, so Morgan, did you go ahead and upload that quote for us?
Yes, I did.
Okay, wonderful. So you will receive email notification when the Mid-Atlantic team uploads a quote for you, so you don't have to keep logging back into the system and opening the account to review. Once you do receive email notification, you can log directly into Appulate and navigate back to the insured file. So the very first page that you get logged into in Appulate is where it lists all of your insured files. So once you find the one that you're looking for a quote on, you could click this drop-down menu and you can go directly straight into one of these lines of business. So they would quote both of them for you. Right now we're just going to go through a package example. And when we go into package, we see the quote here that the Mid-Atlantic team has uploaded for us. So it's under Mid-Atlantic. So if this is ever collapsed, just know that you could expand it here and it would show up under Mid-Atlantic. It opens up as a PDF, so just click on it and you could review the PDF here, which you can extract from Appulate if you would like. If you want to send this to your insured, you absolutely can right from within Appulate. So over on the right-hand side of this quote, you can click on this send by email option, and it will pop up an email, very similar from an email that you would send from your Outlook, for example, but it already has the quote attached, and the email is put together here, which is editable. And you'll type in the insured's email address, and you can send this right over to them. It already has the quote attached. So again, you can extract the quote from Appulate if you'd like to, but just a quick and easy tool for you to go ahead and click on send by email right from within here, and you can edit the email that gets sent out. I want to point out that the status has changed to say quote prepared, so you can see that that quote is ready for you in here. Now, if I would like to move forward and request to bind, there are additional questions that will appear that are required. So in this case, there's only one, and it's under policy. So I can just jump down directly to the policy tab, or use my live link. And it looks like it's just a question about payment plan selection. So I will go ahead and answer that. And once I do, it updates this so that there is a green A for accepted, and I can now go forward with my request to bind. So I'll go ahead and click on this, and it's saying, okay, well, you could move forward with your request to bind, but it looks like you aren't yet appointed with Mid-Atlantic. No problem. Go ahead and click on Get Appointed, and we will take you through the automated appointment process. So for those of you that are appointed with Mid-Atlantic, don't worry about this. It won't pop up for you. You don't have to go through those steps. It knows that you are appointed. For those of you that aren't yet appointed, the great news is that you can submit and you can get your quote, and you don't have to move forward with an appointment if you don't want to until the time that you need to request to bind. Of course, if you would like to get appointed with Mid-Atlantic ahead of time, feel free to reach out to Mid-Atlantic at any time. All right, so click on Get Appointed. And I've already prepped this before our webinar, so you don't have to spend too much time watching me attach documents here. But essentially, it says that you are not yet appointed. That is the status. And it lists all of the documents that Mid-Atlantic needs in order to appoint you. It has contact information, so if you do have any questions, you can reach out to the Mid-Atlantic team. And the first step here is to electronically sign the appointment agreement. So you would click on Sign, and it would take you through the electronic signature process, which is very straightforward. I'm actually going to show it to you a little later on. Then you would go ahead and attach the documents here that are listed up above. Now, I've already attached those, and I'm ready to click on Request Appointment. But before I do, I actually am going to show you one attachment example. So when you click on Select, it's going to browse your computer to attach the documents. So go ahead and choose whatever form it is that you need from your computer. And on this next page, it's going to ask you to choose the type. And that's the important part here. That's the part that I wanted to go through with you. So whatever it is that you've attached, in this case for me it was E&O, make sure that you choose it from the type. Because if Mid-Atlantic or any of our markets require that this be uploaded before you request an appointment, it's not going to fulfill that requirement until you choose the proper type from the drop-down menu. So go ahead and attach that and hit Save, and once you've fulfilled all of those steps, you can go ahead and click on Request Appointment. Your status will change accordingly to Pending Request, and it will trigger a notification to the Mid-Atlantic team, who will go in there and make sure that they have everything that they need and then appoint you. And if they're missing anything, they will be sure to reach out. All right, so Morgan is going to appoint us in the back end so that we can keep moving forward with our demonstration. Morgan, is that ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. All right, so you will, of course, receive email notification, and you can log back into the Appulate system, navigate back in there to this package policy that we've received a notification on that we have now become appointed, so we can move forward. So now, under Action, you have a Request to Bind button that you can click on. So when you click on Request to Bind, it will list any additional steps that are required in order to request to bind. So the first one was to answer a question. The second one was to get appointed if you weren't already. This next one is to sign the Accord form and upload any gloss runs. So if you click on Open Signing Tool, it will take you through our electronic signature process. So you'll choose yourself as the producer, or anyone else, in your office that needs to sign this as the producer. You would choose your applicant or your insured and click OK. And it's going to take you through the electronic signature process, which is legally binding and fully enforceable. It's very simple to use as well. You'll just follow the prompts, and essentially you're just typing in your name, and it creates a signature for you. So let's scroll down here until we can find where it is that we need to sign once you've reviewed the document, of course. So you'll click this button here, and it says type your name. But you'll see that there's also options to pull from anything that you have saved, to draw, or upload. All right, so we will type it in, save, and insert. It says finalize up here, so we'll do so. And in a matter of seconds there, after you've followed all of the prompts, you have received notification that you've electronically signed the document. Very simple, straightforward, no need to print, fax, upload. all automated. So the next step, I still have a request to bind button, so I'll click on it, and it says to upload the loss runs. So as you complete actions, you'll see that it checks them off and highlights them in green, and the goal here is to get that proceed button that you can click on. Currently it's grayed out because we haven't fulfilled the requirements for requesting to bind. So I'll go ahead and click on Open Document Uploading Tool, and it wants me to attach the loss runs. So I'll click on first Edit Insurance History so I can type in who these loss runs are from and the policy number. Okay, and hit Save, and then it's going to list that market here. And on the right-hand side, then I have a paperclip icon that I can click on to upload the loss runs. So this will allow you to browse your computer until you've located those loss runs. Once you click on Open, it will attach them here. And of course, you can drag and drop as well. We have that feature as it's listed here. So once you've attached the loss runs, you can move forward again with clicking that Request to Bind button. It's still showing up there under Action, and they're both in green. You now have that Proceed button that you can click on, so we'll do so. And the status changes accordingly to say Requested to Bind. So this will trigger a notification to the Mid-Atlantic team. They will go ahead and bind it, and once it is bound, you will receive an email notification on it. The status will change accordingly to have said bound, and you would be able to find the policy docs here in Appulate. Okay, the same exact process would go that we just went through would be for the auto as well. So Morgan went ahead and triggered that bind. So we have the status marked as bound. Again, the quoting functionality is removed, and any policy docs that they'll upload, you can find them here in the policy docs section. Okay, so I've showed you how you can bridge over ACORD forms to bridge the information over so that you don't have to rekey it. You'll answer a few additional questions. You'll click the Submit button, and it will get it right off to the Mid-Atlantic team. The rest of the process is also automated, so you can answer any additional questions, you can get appointed, you can request to bind, all right from within Appulate. I also want to point out how you can start directly from within Appulate. So I showed you how if you have an ACORD form bridged over, you can do that very easily without having to rekey information. But for those of you that don't start from ACORD forms, again, Appulate is still for you. Go to appulate.com and log in, and the very first page that you get logged into is the insured page. And on the very top left-hand side, it says Add New Customer or Prospect. So go ahead and click on that, and go ahead and type in the name here of your insured. And once you type that in, you could type in the rest, but again, missing and required will have a red asterisk next to it. So let's just say we want to fill that out and click Continue. We can. It'll ask us for any of that required information down the line, so don't worry. Here on this next screen, I'll choose the insurance line, and I'm actually going to pick package because I want to show you how you can actually build a package policy starting directly from Appulate. So we'll choose a commercial package. Next, it's actually going to have you choose the coverage lines. So this is a package, and we want to add on GL. So we'll search for general liability. Let's say we want to also add property. Choose that, and inland marine. Okay, so this is how you build a package starting from within Appulate. You choose a line of business as package, and then under coverage lines is where you will choose all those lines of business that you want to include in this package. And then it's the same process from here. You click Continue, and you have to choose Mid-Atlantic as your market, and then it's going to list all of the missing and required questions. You'll go through this section by section, answer those until you have a green Submit button that you can click on. All right, so we've gone through all of those examples. Now we would like to take a moment to go over setup, and then we're going to open it up for any questions. So if you have any questions, we will have a live Q&A coming up in about a minute and a half or so after I go through setup. All right, so for everyone that was invited to this webinar, you actually already have Appulate credentials. So Mid-Atlantic went ahead and took care of that for you so that you don't have to spend any time doing that. You'll go to Appulate.com's sign-in page and type in your credentials here. If you don't know your credentials, if you feel like you maybe missed the email or you can't remember your credentials, or maybe you feel like maybe an account wasn't created for you, go to click on Forgot Password and type in your email address and hit submit. If you have an account, it will send you an email with instructions on resetting your password. If you don't, it'll say, nope, we don't recognize that email. And then you can go back to the sign-in page to sign up for Appulate. We have, as I mentioned before, over 30,000 agencies nationwide in the Appulate platform. So chances are that all or most of you are already in Appulate. Maybe it's a matter of resetting your credentials, or your agency has an account but you have not been listed as a user, in which case you can always contact your account admin within your organization or go through the sign up now process. And if it recognizes your email extension, so if it recognizes that because of your email extension your agency has an account but you're not marked as a user, it will give you instructions there as to how to get added. All right, so once you sign in, there are just a couple of important things here. One, if you do plan to start from Accord Forms, be sure to download the uplink. That can be found under Tools and Appulate Uplink. This, you'll choose your drop-down, your agency management system from the drop-down menu, and then click on the link to install. And it'll install on your desktop in less than a minute as a print driver. So if you go to print any document, you'll see Appulate Uplink listed along with your home or your office printer, for example. Okay, if you already have this downloaded and you're using Appulate for another market, you do not have to download this again. It's a one-time download. This is, again, if you're starting from an Accord form, if you would like to bridge your Accord form over from an Accord PDF or from any of your agency management systems. If you are starting directly in Appulate because you don't have Accord forms, you do not need to download this. All right, under Markets and Selected, as I mentioned earlier, is the list of markets that will appear when you're trying to work on a submission. If your market is not on the list, it could be for a couple of different reasons. One, it could be a part of setup. Perhaps you haven't listed Mid-Atlantic or one of your markets as one of the markets that you've chosen to work with here under Appulate. Or it may be that we don't have that market for the line of business that you're working on a submission for. All right, so to make sure that Mid-Atlantic and all of your markets are listed here under Markets and Selected, go first to Markets and Selected to see what you have. This is account based, so it's not by user. Everybody in your agency will have the same list of selected markets. If you're missing anything, you can go down to Markets and Available. Appulate has over 37,000 markets available in here that you can choose from. You will want to be sure that you're typing in the name and not going through alphabetical order, because I don't think you'll have time to sort through the 3,700 markets. So instead, just type in the name of the market that you're appointed with, or a market that has an open brokerage model, meaning that you can submit to them without first being appointed. And once you've located your market, click the plus sign on the right-hand side to move them from the Available tab to the Selected tab so that you can work with them in Appulate. All right, so now I'd like to open it up for any questions. If you do have any questions, please type them in the GoToMeeting side panel in the question section so that Mid-Atlantic team or myself can go ahead and answer those questions for you. If you have any questions after the webinar, I will be pulling up some contact information on my screen here in just a second. Okay, so I will leave Morgan's contact information up on my screen while we go ahead and answer any questions. Okay, so the first question here is, when we bind an account in Appulate, how long will it take to receive our chance to spend for a gift card? Morgan, is that something that you could answer?
Yes, it is. You'll receive a notification within 24 hours to set up a time to spin our live wheel. Once the wheel has been spun, an email will be sent to you almost immediately so you have access to your gift card. Great question.
Thank you, Morgan. Another good question for you. What if any changes are needed after I receive a quote before binding? How do I make changes?
It's very simple. All you do is log into Appulate and make the changes needed for that insurer that you are looking for. Then a notification will be sent to that underwriter that's working on it.
Perfect. Thank you, Morgan. Next question here. What should we do if a username has been disabled? I can answer that question. So if a username has been disabled, you can always email support@appulate.com and they will take care of that for you. If you are also an account admin, if you were listed as the admin in the account, you can go to Setup and Users and you can re-enable a user. The next question here, doesn't look like I'm set up when I went under Markets tab. Can we look at this later this afternoon? So yes, Morgan's contact information is up on my screen. Feel free to reach out to her. She could definitely help you out with that, or you can always email support@appulate.com. I'll be sure to let Morgan know of your contact information as well so that you guys can connect today. So this is another great question. Does Appulate take a portion of commissions? How does Appulate get paid? Great question. So Appulate is free for you to use to partnered markets like Mid-Atlantic because Mid-Atlantic and all of our partnered markets cover the cost for you in an effort to streamline submissions. So obviously they want to make it easier for you to do business with them. So they cover the cost. That's how Appulate gets paid. Appulate also does have a premium service with premium features that includes submissions to non-partnered markets and loss run requesting tools. So if you are interested in a premium subscription, you can always contact agency sales@appulate.com for more information. So Appulate does not take a portion of the commissions. Really great questions. All right, can you upload spreadsheets in lieu of Accord forms? No, the Uplink tool works with the Accords. Last call for any questions? Okay, great. Well, I'm going to toss this over to Morgan for some closing words. Before I do, I just wanted to thank everyone on behalf of the Appulate team for joining another webinar of ours. We really appreciate your interest and dedication. Morgan, over to you.
Thank you, Vanessa. I really appreciate your time and Lindsay's. To our agents, if any additional training is needed for you or your agency, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to set up a private webinar for your company or even find a convenient time and date to come out and meet with you and your staff. Thank you all again for joining us today. We can't wait for you all to see all the benefits of our Appulate portal can offer. Everyone have a great day.